folks, Rory here from Team Venom Media, and welcome to episode 1 of our greatest graphic novel guide for 2025. We did one of these last year where it was just a footage of the graphic novel and some bump about it, but this year we're going to do it a little bit differently, where we're going to take a walk into my little closet library that I've got, pick something cool off the shelf, and talk about how great that book is. So let's take a backwards walk into this room. This is my very cool nerd hut, basically, and as you can see, there's lots of comics and crap all stacked up, and there's some pictures, and we're gonna switch the camera around and go to the shelves. So yeah, as you can see, I've got a stupid amount of Marvel things, and the one that we're going to go for this week is the first volume of New Avengers. Please excuse the signed image of Ron Simmons. Right, so yeah, for this week we're going to talk about the New Avengers and Volume 1, Breakout, which is one of my favourite graphic novels. Okay, so the New Avengers Volume 1, Breakout is by Brian Michael Bendis and illustrated by David Finch. It came out around 2004, 2005 sort of period. It should actually be on here. I should have prepared this a little bit better, but I didn't. Yeah, I mean, this is the 6th printing, so it's just telling me 2014. Okay, yeah, copyright 2004 all the way through to 2006. Which will be because of the variant covers and things like that came out at the time. Now, back in 2004, I was a big fan of the X-Men. I've been reading them all throughout the 90s, and I was basically one of the many people that wanted more and more Wolverine stuff in the comics. As you might know, Marvel went very Wolverine heavy, had even guest spots for virtually every series, and saw spikes in their sales whenever Wolverine was involved. So they decided they were going to make him and Spider-Man Avengers. Now, the New Avengers was a follow-up to the Avengers Disassembled run that was done by Brian Michael Bendis, where the original team of Avengers broke up because of a really, really bad day and series of events that unfolded over that. So New Avengers is the initial book of the whole relaunch that's set the blueprint for the Avengers for many years from that point onwards, because they're still in this same sort of format, where essentially, instead of it being a bunch of random Marvel characters that you don't really know that much about or care that much about, it's all like A-listers now. So the initial lineup that they had was Captain America, Iron Man, Spider-Man, Spider-Woman, Luke Cage, and Wolverine, and they teased Daredevil for a while, but he never quite joined until the second run of New Avengers, which was following the entirety of this. So, in fact, if you can see on the shelf up there, that whole run all the way to there, from about that sort of period to the end of the shelf, is the run where this kicks things off. And somewhere down on the second shelf, one of those little yellow books there behind me, is where Matt Murdock finally joins. But it's teased from the first issue because Marvel. So the New Avengers is down to one massive event where there's a breakout at the Raft, which is basically a prison for all superpowered criminals. And at the time, they've got Matt Murdock and Foggy Nelson, who are going in there to see the Sentry, who is potentially going to be the next big thing in the MCU movies because of the Thunderbolts movie. But yeah, there's the Sentry, so you can see him in all his glory. And essentially, this was a story where someone broke someone out of the Raft. Matt Murdock, Foggy were there. They had Jessica Drew, Spider-Woman, there because she was their S.H.I.E.L.D. liaison, and they had Luke Cage with them because Luke Cage was Matt Murdock's bodyguard at the time. Luke Cage also ended up as a member of the New Avengers. I can't remember if I mentioned that from the lineup. If I missed it, I apologise. If not, yeah, Luke Cage is in this. And the Sentry ends up eventually joining them too, but not in this book. So they have this massive breakout in the Raft. They all come together from various things, like Captain America's on a helicopter going over there. Spider-Man swings off the bottom of that helicopter to get to the Raft because the Raft's out in the middle of the river. And Iron Man turns up because he's Iron Man and can just fly. And so they all stop the breakout. There's something like 42 supervillains that have escaped as a result. And so they all go on like a bit of a thing to try and find who was broken out. And it turned out, and they get to that point, and when they do, that's when Wolverine crosses their paths because he's doing the same sort of thing. He's tracking down the person that's been broken out. And that's about as far as I want to go into that for you, because I think I've just spoiled the first half of this book. But it's a really good book. It's definitely worth a read. It's one of my favourite graphic novels of all times. One of my favourite like Marvel comic book series is the New Avengers. As I pointed out, that shelf has the entire run on there in various formats, some paperback, some hardback. And this was the event. This was the book that started off Marvel's event trend. So they'd have a big event in the summer that would tie in loads of different series, and most of that was warped around the New Avengers. So they got like 3 volumes in, and then we had the House event. Then that had another couple of volumes, and then it was the Civil War. There were some really great Civil War tie-ins by the New Avengers comics, because obviously Captain America and Iron Man were the 2 main figureheads of the New Avengers, and they were the 2 opposing forces for the superhero Civil War. So the tie-ins for the New Avengers were great as well. Following that, we had a few more volumes of the post-Civil War New Avengers, which was Cap's team from Civil War carrying on. And then that led into Secret Invasion, which then led into Dark Reign, and then that ended into the big Siege event, which is the big blue thick thing on my shelf over there. It was a really good run. It put Spider-Man and Wolverine at the position of being Avengers for a good few years. At the moment, they're not on any of the current teams at time of recording this. Things might change in Marvel, but they've been coming and going from the Avengers for years since this point. And yeah, it's just a really good book. Definitely recommend it. You can find it on eBay quite cheap because it's the first volume. It was also put in the Marvel Ultimate Graphic Novel Collection, which was a UK collection of hardback books, which came out at £10 a pop. And you can find it quite cheap in that format as well. I've seen it for as little as £3 on eBay, but it's definitely worth getting. And as I say, I picked up every single issue as they came out in individual format, and then I've got all the trade paperbacks and hardbacks and all that sort of stuff as a result of loving the series so much. So yeah, that's the first book that I'd happily recommend for this year. And that's all there is, really. Thank you very much for watching, and please like, subscribe, all that sort of stuff. If you're a fan of comic books, please check out the channel, check out teamvenom.uk, where there's loads of comic book content. We have a press agreement with 2000 AD, so there's usually previews, reviews, all sorts of 2000 AD content on there. And we've also got various pop culture podcasts. We've got a Team Venom pop culture podcast coming out soon, where we talk about all different nerdy things from 90s onwards. And we also have a Team Venom wrestling podcast, which it goes out every Thursday and features myself and some of my Team Venom colleagues talking about wrestling, because it's one of the things that we love. And there's also, for a completely different type of things, if you head over to Spotify and search for You Spawn Kill My Opinion, which is hosted by Connor Yorkie, who's also one of the Team Venom guys. Me and him basically have been talking about video games for weeks and weeks and weeks. I think that's around it, episode 25 at the moment, but it's definitely worth checking out. Anyway, thank you for your time. See you all soon.